My God, man, I called it yesterday. If you guys missed our news video from yesterday, we talked about some new AEW action figures that had been leaked, and we talked about some reveals that AEW and Jazwares had at New York Toy Fair this past weekend. And sure enough, man, midday yesterday, after I called it in yesterday's video, saying that these figures would probably be going up, sure enough, there they were. AEW Unmatched Series 13 went up for pre-order. Now, there's a lot to talk about here, so we're going to talk about it. We're going to break down the figures, talk about them, give you everything I got here, but I thought that was pretty crazy. And we went over the Toy Fair figures yesterday, and we talked about some leaks of the Kenny Omega and the Kris Statlander from yesterday. So if you guys missed that video, check that out. We also had a toy hunt that went up at like 11 p.m. or something that you may have missed, so you may want to go check that out. Absolutely loaded stores that we went to, but let's get into it, man. Let's start off with this wave. We have Kyle Fletcher, my GOAT, absolutely brilliant. So excited to finally get him. We have Hook, we have Kenny Omega, and we have Kris Statlander. So 4 figures in this set, which we'll talk about a little bit later. I think that's absurd, but we're going to get into it, man. Let's break it down. Let's start off first with Kyle Fletcher, man. I think this is a figure that I think it's very similar. It's probably not as high. You can let me know if I'm wrong. I think, obviously, Kyle Fletcher's very high on everybody's list. I was going to say, is he as high as Kenny Omega was, as Will Ospreay was? I don't know. Maybe he is for you. I don't know. I am a personal big fan of Kyle Fletcher, and specifically the Chase figure in the white gear right here. Pretty sure he wore this at Super Card of Honor 2024 over WrestleMania weekend for WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. I got to actually attend that show where I got to meet Wardlow and a bunch of other AEW talent, and it was really awesome. And so this figure kind of represents that. I think that's incredible, and so I definitely want this Chase figure. Any Kyle Fletcher we get in any sort of way, and I know what you're going to say, this figure's obviously outdated. It's, you know, it's before he cut his hair. He doesn't have all of his tattoos. I mean, obviously, it's a moment in time figure. However, I still think it's a damn good figure. I like the gear. I think it's sweet. It's a big moment. You got that elbow pad in there. I like this Kyle Fletcher. You know, it looks like it's going to be pretty posable, as most AEW figures are. I like the build of the figure. It looks very posable. I'm excited for it. I think this is great. And shoot, I don't know. Maybe I can use this head sculpt for my own self. I don't know. Similar haircut, not all the way. Maybe after a fresh cut. But this is sick, man. This is a great figure. It also has tattoos on it, so I like it. Toyetic, white gear, Kyle Fletcher, sign me up. Not even a big deal. Also, this figure's up for pre-order. You can actually, so this is another interesting development that's happening with this AEW Unrivaled or Unmatched line, is it's available on Ringside Collectibles right now for pre-order, and you can pre-order the full wave, including the Chase Kyle Fletcher. So it looks like there's only going to be one Chase figure in this set. It's going to be Kyle Fletcher. It's going to be in this white gear, and I love this. I think this is great. But again, it's up for pre-order on Ringside right now for $49.99. So I don't think that's ever been, has that ever been a thing in the entire years that Jazwares has been making AEW wrestling figures? Have they ever had the chases available for pre-order? I feel like that's never been a thing, and so I think this is big, man. Kyle Fletcher Chase figure up for pre-order. If you want it, go use code MD Toys, save yourselves 10%. I'm most definitely looking forward to this figure, but I think the details here are great. This is just a great toyetic figure, but we also have a look at the regular edition, and in the regular edition, it is going to be black and red, but I think it's also pretty sweet, man. You have black and red here. It's got some gold trim on the kick pads. It has the addition of the red accents. Very cool figure as well. It pretty much kind of a flip-flop of that other attire where it's black and red instead of the white and red. But I like this, man. The black elbow pad in there. Pretty sweet figure. Again, pretty much the exact same figure except a repaint. It's what the chases versus regulars are. I think that this is a good figure as well. Looks aesthetically good. I like the build of the figure. Again, posability seems to be there. So I am all aboard any Kyle Fletcher figures. And, you know, I don't think we'll get an updated Kyle Fletcher. I highly doubt we'll get any other Kyle Fletchers besides these, but the fact that we're getting these is a huge step, especially for those that have been wanting Kyle Fletcher. This is huge, man. This is the only figure, if I could pick one figure or, you know, a couple figures, the Chase and the regular, if I could pick, you know, a couple figures from all those figures that were shown at Comic-Con in terms of the render, I think this would have been my pick, so I'm excited for this one. But we also have a look at Hook. Now, Hook, of course, is no stranger to the AEW figure line. I think he has 5 figures before this one, so I dig this. We do get some updates. You get the updated tattoos. He's got a cool gear here. I guess we can call this the Florida Gator gear. I don't really know. It's white, blue, and orange. Looks very sweet. Updated head sculpt, FTW Championship. Pretty cool figure here. I like it. I think that it looks pretty good for the most part. One thing I'm noticing on this figure specifically that I like is the likeness. I like this head sculpt. I don't think that Hook's really had any bad figures. You know, his boot mold and stuff kind of makes him difficult to stand up, but, you we got the ringside exclusive one, we had the regular version, we had the Chase, we had that Shop AEW one, we had the 2-pack from Hookhausen, I think it was too. So this is a good figure. I look forward to this. I've gotten all the other hooks, so I'll definitely be picking this one up. I'm excited to get this hook in here, even if it is our last one. Tattoos do look a bit dark for me. I feel like maybe they should be lighter, but I like this. I like this figure. I'm excited to get the hook figure, so we'll see, even though it has skin tone pegs. I don't know if that's completely accurate, but regardless of the fact, we do have the hook figure, and then we also have the Kenny Omega figure. Now, this is one of the figures that was actually leaked out there, as we know, and I am completely torn on this for a few different reasons, okay? I saw some people, there was a group of people that were saying this is the best Kenny Omega head sculpt I'd ever seen, and then I saw a lot of people saying that it was the worst Kenny Omega figure or head sculpt that they've ever seen. So I want to know down below if you guys are on team good head sculpt or team bad head sculpt. But this figure, from the neck down specifically, I do like. I mean, I've talked about it before. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. I am a big Kenny Omega fan. I love his gears. I love his figures from AEW and Jazwares. I think next to Darby Allin, they're the best figures that Jazwares makes for certain talent. Darby Allin and Kenny probably have the most figures, I think. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think that's true, though. If you put up the most figures from any character, Moxley's probably up there. I know MJF has had quite a bit. I know Penta had some. You had, the Young Bucks, whatever. I think Kenny Omega and Darby Allin have the most figures, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, I love his figures. They're just very posable. They're on brand. You know what you're getting. And most of the time, the head sculpts are good. On this head sculpt specifically, I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of this head sculpt. I think it's there, but it's not. I like how detailed it is. I like the hair. There's something about the face. Like, sometimes I look at the face and I think, damn, that's pretty good. And then I look at it again, I'm like, what was I thinking? So I've literally flip-flopped it back and forth multiple times looking at these Kenny Omega figure head sculpts, but I think the gear is sweet. The gear reminds me a lot of early New Japan Kenny Omega, I think it was, when he was wearing trunks, and then he did come out, of course, and wear these tights later, and it does remind me of some other attires that he's worn in the past, but I dig this gear. I think it's bright and colorful. That green and gold really pops off. It's a bit of a different take than we've seen from Kenny, so I love that about the figure too. I like this, man, but of course, this was leaked out, and apparently, I haven't checked, but apparently there is a figure, that prototype that was kind of leaked out there. I think people thought that figure wasn't going to release, so it kind of seemed like it was going to be an unreleased Kenny, and I think people are bidding it up on eBay. I don't know entirely. I haven't looked. I don't know if people are going to be paying for that or what the case is there, but, it looks like this figure's coming out, so I don't know. Maybe, I guess maybe that's a sample or a prototype. Maybe you can tell yourself that if you have to spend a lot of money. I don't know, but this Kenny Omega looks pretty good. You could always head swap it. You could always torso swap it. If you could just use the tights. You could put a damn Supreme body and head sculpt on this if you want to, right? So, I don't know. I like it. I think it's solid. Not really any accessories here, which is kind of bummy. It comes with interchangeable hands, but nothing to really set the world on fire, but I do like the Kenny Omega. And last but not least, we have Kris Statlander here, who does come with probably the best accessory, which is going to be this entrance coat or this entrance robe, which, again, this was a part of those leaks we got just the other day. We talked about it yesterday, but this did come out a few days ago on socials. We got the updated Kris Statlander that was also a render, and it does come with this entrance robe, which I do think looks really, really good. AEW and Jazwares has put together some really nice cloth goods accessories over the years since getting that AEW license or making the figures. So I think this is a really strong Kris Statlander. I definitely like this one more than her first go around. That black and white gear pops off. I think the tattoo deco looks a bit better here. I don't know. I like this figure overall better than her first go around, but Kris Statlander coming with some pretty decent stuff here. I like that coat a lot, but I think that overall this set is not bad. The only thing about this set that's crazy is how many figures you're getting. You're really only getting 4 figures. You're not getting 5. I know if you include the Chase, but mainly, there's 4 figures in this set. You have Kyle Fletcher, Hook, Kris Statlander, and Kenny Omega, and I like this set, but, there were a laundry list of figures that were shown off at Comic-Con, and it looks like they had to do some maneuvering here, at least off, I think so. I remember when those certain figures were, first announced, we thought that certain figures would be in certain waves and other figures would be in other waves, and so I'm not entirely sure what the protocol was for that, what kind of adjustments they had to make, but there's obviously been some sort of cuts. I think that, they've had to move some figures around. There's only 1 Chase here instead of 2 Chases. I hope that it's not the case, but maybe they had to move to 4 figures with 1 Chase, and maybe we'll get the rest of those figures that were shown off in rendered form, and I hope that the rest of the figures that were shown were not just completely shelved. I hope that they were just maneuvered or moved in a certain way, because there were a lot of really good figures on paper that we were supposed to be getting, and now a couple of those figures were obviously either A, moved, or B, they were cut completely, and I hope it's not option B, because there were some talents in there that I really, really wanted and that we've been waiting a while for. So that's something I definitely want to see. Specifically, one that comes to mind is Christopher Daniels. I don't know how he wasn't in one of the first waves. I'm not entirely sure what his contract is, or what the thing is there, because I could have sworn, man. I mean, I thought for sure we would have gotten a figure of him very early on, and it just never happened until finally at Comic-Con we get a render of him, and we're finally going to get Christopher Daniels, and then, it seems that AEW and Jazwares are no longer going to be making figures past 2026, at least on paper. We don't know exactly, again, what's there, what's confirmed, what's not. It's just something that, we've kind of talked about and analyzed a little bit, and I really want that figure to come to fruition, but there's also other figures there that looked really, really good. They were toyetic, there were some great bonuses there, but I think collectively as a whole, this Unmatched Series 13 is pretty damn good. I think there's some good figures here. To me, the standout is Kyle Fletcher. I really want that Chase figure. I don't know if, I don't know, I'm kind of up in the air. I really want to pre-order it because of just the, I love Kyle Fletcher, and then you have that tie of the personal story to Philadelphia that just kind of makes sense to me. So I don't know if I want to wait or go ahead and just lock it down. I'm not entirely sure just yet, but I dig the figures here. I like the wave collectively, and it'll just be, what your guys' thoughts are down below. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you guys think. Are you on board with these or not on board with these? Are you going to be pre-ordering them? Are you going to be, what's the deal, man? Let me know all your stuff. But before we get out of here, let's get into our random comment shout out from yesterday, man. I appreciate you guys so very much. And a random comment shout out is going to go to Ty Goodrich, friend of the channel here. Has nothing to do with this video, but I got to know, Trey, what or who do you think was in the big wooden box on Monday Night Raw? I'm going to guess the Penguins of Madagascar, which is hilarious. But what's crazy about this is, I've thought about it a little bit, and I haven't put too much, thought into this question. But my first thought, is like, oh, it'd be cool if it was a debut of some kind. And so, I was thinking to myself, maybe, not that, oh, it's Jericho, but it was like, oh, that would be kind of cool. I know that there's ties. I've read somewhere it was, the debut of him or something like that was close with the date or something like that in the same arena, etc. But then I was thinking to myself, I don't think Jericho's going to debut that way. I think Jericho would be some sort of big moment or something like that. So, I don't know. I think it'd be cool if it were Danhausen or something like that. That kind of fits with that theme. It's a little bit odd. It kind of fits in with the character a little bit. Maybe that could be a potential thing. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't know, man. I commented under this and was saying that it's probably something dumb like Rowan Spider that one time, which is probably more accurate. But I don't know. Leave your best guesses down below on what the damn box from Monday Night Raw is. I don't know. Hopefully it's something to gas up WrestleMania season, man, because right now WrestleMania season is a lull.